Hi guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to create a function that will take some parameters and it will return um, the, let's say, first Sunday of May in the year uh, 2011. So it takes a bunch of parameters and it finds a certain date given that you want it to be the first, second, or third um, or fourth Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in whatever month. So it's a very flexible function, and we'll get into that in a second. But right now, just a reminder: go to excelvbasequel.com, where you could watch a ton of hours of videos on Excel VBA. Put your email in here, and you could receive an email when new videos are uploaded. And contact me here. Send me any questions you may have. Okay, so let's get started. So, like I said, let's imagine we have a year here, 2011, and let's say you work at a flower shop and or a corporate company that owns a flower shop or something, and they want to know what day is Father's Day in 2011 in America. I'll put in US. So Father's Day in America is the, let's see, it's the third Sunday in June. Third Sunday in the 6th month. Okay? So we want to write a function that we can do something, and I'm going to name the function Nth Day of Month. And we want to write a function like this, Nth Day of Month, that we can pass in some parameters and it'll return the Father's Day for 2011. So the first parameter that we want to pass in is what number of day do we want to look for. So in our case, we want the third Sunday, so I would put in 3 here for the third Sunday. And then how do we specify Sunday? We're going to pass in an integer that will specify what day we're looking for, and the integer will be between 1 and 7, and we'll start with Sunday being 1 and Saturday being 7, and then we'll pass in what month do we want. So I want the 6th month because the 6th month is June, and then what year do we want, and I'll pass in this range here. So this is what our function is going to look like, and it should return June 19th, 2011. So let's write this function and see if we can get it to return June 19th, 2011. Once again, this is the name of the function that we're going to write. The first variable indicates the first, second, or third, or fourth weekday. In our case, it's the third. The second, or I should say, this is a parameter if I didn't say it. This is the first parameter, and it specifies the first, second, third, or fourth day. This specifies a day between Sunday to Saturday, with Sunday being 1 and Saturday being 7. This specifies a month between 1 and 12, with the normal months, 1 being January, 6 being June. And the last parameter was the year range. So let's now write this function. So we go to developer, we go to record, or we go to Visual Basic here, and let's insert a module. So remember what a function is. It's just like a machine that takes parameters and it outputs something. So to write a function in VBA, you do function, you write the word function, and then the name of the function. So the name of our function will be Nth Day of Month. And then I'll put in the parameters in a second, but I pressed enter and end function came up. So that's by default, and that's going to come up. And now let's deal with our parameters. So I'm going to put a parameter in here called nth as integer, and this is going to be again the first, second, third, or fourth. Then I'm going to put d of week as integer, and that again is going to be the day between between Saturday and Sunday, with Sunday being 1. And then we're going to do x month as integer, and this is going to be the month. So this is the name of the variable, x month. The name of the variable here is d of week, and nth is the name of the variable here with the type of the variable here. This is integer, integer, integer. And now for the last one, remember I selected a cell over here. I selected that A1. So I'm going to pass in a range here. So this is going to be x year as range. And what is this function going to return? It's going to return a date. So now we have the definition of our function, and this is called like the function definition, as the name of our function and the parameters it takes, 4 parameters, and then what is it returning? It's going to return a date. And then we have end function down here. So now we could begin writing the function. So what we need to do is declare a couple things. I'm going to do dim d as date. I'm going to do dim I as integer, and dim count as integer. And now I want to take whatever value I pass in this range here. Oh, this should be x year, not x year j. And I want to put it in a variable. So I'm just going to put dim y as integer, and y is equal to x year dot value, because what I'm doing is just taking what is in this range here. I'm putting it in a variable, and now this year y is going to have an integer. So 2011 would be in this y right here if I pass in a1 or a2. Sorry. Now, so let's think about how we're going to do this. We want to start at the first day of the month. Any month you pass in here, we want to start at the first day and loop through every day, and then say, is this day the day of week that we're looking for? And if it is, we want to increment the counter until the counter reaches nth. So we need to do a couple things. We're going to have a counter variable, so I'm going to do count is equal to 0, and that's I declared count up here, and I is equal to 1. So so this is going to say, I guess I should put this first. And this is going to be, this I equal to 1 is to loop through days starting with first day of month. And this count, it says count until count equals nth. So now we're going to loop through all the days, and we're gonna somehow extract what day of week that is, and say if that day of week is equal to the day of week that we want, then increment this count. So now we could do a loop. We could do until count equals nth loop, and remember, we want to loop through all the days here, starting with the first. So we want to loop. Our loop is going to increment I. It's going to do I is equal to I plus 1. So this is good. This is basically go to the next day. But now we don't have anything that has a day in this loop. So let's do that. So I declare d is equal to date up here, and all I need to do is go d is equal to. There's a function in Excel VBA called date value, and this will turn a string. So if you enter a date as a string, then it's going to return a date value instead of a string value. So let's turn things that are strings into a date using this date value. So how do you do that? We do cstring month, and that's this month here is the month that we passed into the function, and then we do ampersand / and cstring I, because I is going to be, so this would be like 6 1 6-1 stands for June 1st. And then we loop through, I is going to go I plus 1, so then it'll be 6-2. But we also need the year in here, so we do and ampersand and a forward slash and C string. And we use C string again to turn everything into a string because this function date value takes a string. And then we do C string, and then we do Y, whatever this year was. Actually, we don't need to put a variable here, Y. We could just do it like this: C string X year, whatever they passed in. I was thinking that we couldn't access the value of X year because it was a range, but we actually can. So you don't need to take this value and put it in another variable. So now we have a date in this date variable, in this D variable, sorry. And how we got that was by taking the month that the person's looking for and the year that they're looking for, and also taking a variable we set up called I, and we set up a string that looks like I'll show you. So let me run this. I'll show you what that string looks like. And if you just go into Excel and you start typing nth day of month, you start to see the function, and you could write it in here. We want the third Sunday of June, and we want to pass in that. You could also click on this little fx here. It stands for function. And you could see what the parameters of this function are. So when you write a function in VBA, Excel automatically will create this behind the scenes, the ability to click on that fx and see an interface with all the parameters. And then we just click OK. Actually I spelled it month instead of X month. Keeps doing that. Sorry. So if I just click enter here, it worked now. And look at this day if I add a watch. So the D here, this D variable, I put a breakpoint here. And I called the function and I stopped so that D would be populated. And D is equal to 6/1/2011 in memory. You could see that. And also the type is a date. So now we're doing good because now we have a date starting with the first day of the month that the person passes in. And if we loop through, if I do this now, because I was incremented and it goes to 2, then down here we have 6/2 instead of 6/1. And then again, if we keep looping, you have 6/3. So this loop will keep going. It will eventually error out if you go to a date that is past the day of the month. So if I keep going, actually, yeah, it errored out because this pound value error is because our loop just keeps incrementing I. That's all it does. There's nothing to say stop. So that when you get to, I think the last day of June is 6/30. So our loop is just going to keep going. It's just going to go 6/31, 6/32, 6/40, 6/50, and those dates don't exist. So that causes an error when you try to make a date value for 6/50/2011. So that causes the error. So we need to put something in here to stop, and remember we're going to stop when count is equal to nth. So we need to now use that counter variable. But before we do that, we need to somehow extract the day of the week from this date. So we saw that we could get 6/1 in memory, but we don't know if that's a Sunday or Saturday or whatever. So now I'm going to do dim DOW as integer, and this is going to be 1 is equal to Sunday ... 7 is equal to Saturday. And that's what this is going to hold. So now we do this. We do DOW, the day of week, is equal to weekday. This is another function Excel provides where you can pass in a date, and you could specify if you pass in this date, it'll return what day of week it is, starting at whatever this parameter is, starting with 1 at whatever this parameter is. So here's a date you pass in. Since I selected VB Sunday, that means Sunday is going to be the first day of the week. If I selected VB Saturday, Saturday would be the first day of the week. So this variable here sets Sunday equal to 1 and Saturday equal to 7. And because I passed in this date here, it'll tell me, is this D variable a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7? So, and it puts it in that DOW variable. So now we have that. We're able to tell if it's a Saturday, Sunday, or whatever. Now we can do this. We could do if the DOW, if the date of week of this D variable is equal to the day of week that we passed in, which is what we're looking for. So let's say the person is looking for a Sunday. We would go through every day in the month and go, what weekday is it? Is it a Saturday or Sunday? And if it's a Sunday, we fall into this loop. So it says, put a weekday in here, and is that weekday equal to the weekday that we're looking for, that we want to count? And if it is, then we want to just set our count variable equal to count plus 1. So now we're done with our function, and you could see if I run this now, we want the third Sunday in June for that year. If I run this, it stopped at 6/5/2011, and that's correct because I'll put a watch on DOW, and this DOW, so 6/5/2011 is a Sunday, because that's what this line is telling us. It's saying pass in a date and tell me what day it is, tell me what weekday it is, and put it in this variable DOW. Well, down here it says DOW is equal to 1, and we know that 1 equals Sunday. So 6/5/2011 is a Sunday, and if I run it again, 6/12/2011 is a Sunday. And if you think about that, 6/5 plus 7 days is 6/12, so that's correct. If we do it again, we get 6/19 is a Sunday in 2011. And notice that our count variable now, if I go through here and I add a watch, our count variable has incremented to 3 because we fell into this loop 3 times, because we looped through every day of the month and we found 3 Sundays. And this count is now equal to what we passed in. Remember, we passed in 3 here. We passed in 3, and that goes to this variable nth. So count is now equal to nth. So we're going to now fall out of this loop. We're going to go to the next day, and we loop, and now we do count, which is equal to 3, is going to be equal to nth, which is equal to 3. So if I go here, we fall out of the function and we're done. And if I step through again, we get a 0 here. Now, why are we getting 0? Well, there's one thing we forgot to do, that we didn't assign anything to the function, to the name of the function. Remember, in VBA, what we want to do is return a date, but we didn't write anything to return a date. So to return a date, or to return anything from a function, you put the name of the function, which I did, nth day of month here, and then you put whatever value you want to return. So we want to return D, because D is going to be the date where we stop in this loop. And if we run this again now, and I press enter, I get 40713, and if I turn that into a date, I get 6/19/2011. So it's working. If I change this to 1, I get 6/5. And notice that it's pretty fast. But what is actually happening here is that it's doing these loops. You might think that that loop would take a long time, but it actually doesn't. Now, is this the most efficient way of doing this? I guess you would have to investigate that. You could put another tab here and just list out. The other way of doing this is to do a VLOOKUP and have some table over here that has year and Father's Day, right? And you would have 2011, 6/5, 2011, and you could look up what day Father's Day was in 2011. But that requires you to have a table of every single year. And also, what if you wanted Mother's Day or anything like that? So for instance, in our case, what was Father's Day in 2000, well, let's say 1967. So let's do this. What was Father's Day in 1967? Well, Father's Day has to be the third Sunday, so it was actually 6/18 in 1967. And if I just 1968, and I just keep going, you could now copy this function down, and you could get all your Father's Days for any year. Say you wanted to start at, I'll just do this, equals this plus 1. And now let's do, let's see. Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to figure out Father's Day, you would have to have a table from somewhere on the internet or in some book or something to figure out, okay, where's Father's Day from? But you could see it took us about maybe 10 minutes or less to write a function that will tell us when Father's Day is in any year. And you could do it in Mother's Day too. So in America, Mother's Day is I think it's the second Sunday in May. So again, if you wanted to do this in a different way, you would have to go find out a table or something. Okay, when was Mother's Day in 1967 or something? Mother's Day is the second, so we pass in 2, Sunday, which is 1, and May, which is 5. And again, let me change this to format cells, date. So 5/14/1967. Now let's change this to 2011, and we could see that in 2011, Father's Day is 6/19, which is correct. Mother's Day was 5/8. I don't have a calendar, but you could check, but it's gonna be a Sunday. It's gonna be the second Sunday in May. So that's what this function is. It's very useful because you don't need to look at calendars, you don't need to look at tables, you don't need to go find things on the internet to say when was this day or when was that day. Now we have a functionality to go, give me, let's say you wanted the third Sunday in April. So we would do equals nth. I'm going to click on it, double click, and I want the third. No, let's do Wednesday. So Wednesday is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to be 4. In April, which is 4, comma, we pass in our year. This is going to be third Wednesday. So I don't know what the third Wednesday in April is, but maybe at your company it's like payroll or some sort of whatever, some sort of day that is significant. And you need to know going out for 10 years or backwards for 10 years, when was the third Wednesday in April for every year. Well, we just did it really fast. And you could also work in things to say a better, and we could check that this is a Wednesday by doing something like this: equals weekday, and then we're going to pass in this date. So we're sort of reverse engineering. So we could see that this is actually a 4. Well, I guess we proved it to ourselves, but so there's a Wednesday. But let's think about this. Let's say you get paid on the third Friday at your company. You're in like the payroll, or you're doing some program for this accounting department. And our function takes a month, but so Friday would be 6, third Friday. And you could alter this function instead of taking a month or things like that. You could say, give me the third Friday of the current month, and let's see if we could equals month date. Okay, so you could do something like this. If you have a function in Excel, you could do month today. That'll give you whatever current month you're in. And this, now we could pass that in to our month variable here, month today. And now we have the third Friday of the current month. And I guess I should remove all this stuff. So in here we have the third Friday of the current month. Now you could use this because if you had to determine dates for payrolls and things, you can then save this, and you could maybe copy paste special values so that as you move forward in time, when this goes to July, that this would say 7 whatever. It would say the 7th. It would say the third Friday in July. But if you're moving forward in some Excel workbook where every month you have to know what is the third Friday, you could do that. You could do this, and you could copy paste it so that as you move forward it doesn't change. Copy paste the values, and also you could alter this function. I'm not going to do it here, but you could alter it to say if this third Friday is a holiday, then go back one day. You could totally do that in here in your code. You could write another if statement in here and say if this date here is some holiday, that you would maybe build out an array and loop through that array and say, is that date equal to one of those dates in this holiday array? So I would build out an array of holidays, of dates, holiday dates, and then you could also loop through it and say, if it's one of those dates, then you could subtract a date from here. But that gets a little bit more complex. Not too complex, but it's definitely, you would have to alter this function. But you could see the value of this function is that it returns a date when you specify what the first, second, or third day of week in what month do you want. So think about that, and this code, what's important about this code? Well, we use a weekday function to get the day of the week, and we use this date value function that takes a string and it returns a date, and we use those in conjunction to find out what day of week we are dealing with. And then we use a counter variable, and we also loop through every day of the month. So that's pretty much it. And then also, when you want to return a value of the function, you have to put the name of the function equal to something. You assign a value to the name of the function, and that'll return your value to the worksheet. So think about that. What I'm going to do is take all this code and I'm going to paste it on Excel VBA so you can look at it, or not paste it. I'm gonna put it on Excel VBA if you want to download it. You can also come here and watch the video. If you have questions, contact me here. Like I said, put your email in here, and when new videos go up, you can get an email. Okay, until next video, thanks. Bye.